Mind Control with Chase Hughes. But in reality, I think most people are good-natured, and we tend to think that we won't obey an authority figure because I'm a good person. I would never kill anybody. I would never, if an authority figure told me to go kill somebody, I would never comply. And if we go back, it's 209 times the Milgram experiment has been replicated with exactly the same results, give or take. And if you go back before the experiment takes place, for all of those times it's been replicated, and you ask each one of those people, would you kill someone if an authority figure told you to? You get 100% say, absolutely not. That's ridiculous. I would never do that. And 67% of us will. But it's an interesting fact about that experiment. If you read the book called Obedience to Authority, that's written by Dr. Milgram, 250 volts is enough to kill you. So if you go back to that experiment, and I won't spend a lot of time talking about it right now, but we might unpack it here in a little bit. But they shocked people all the way up to 450 volts, where it says XXX, danger, severe shock, right underneath that lever. 250 volts can kill you, depending on amperage and other stuff that I don't really understand. But 250 can be fatal. And 100% of people, 100% went to 250. 100%. That's kind of a big deal. And the amount of people that stood up to go check on the person being shocked in the next room over was 0%. Nobody went in there. So one of the things that they suggested, and I've spent 15 years decoding the process in the human brain, the evolutionary reasons that we become obedient to other people, and I've turned it into a system. But one of the reasons that Dr. Milgram states is why people become obedient is something called an agentic shift. Derivative of the word agent, if you're trying to spell that. Agentic shift. And this happens when we're in the presence of someone who makes us feel less responsible for our actions. So there's a shifting of responsibility from one person's shoulders to the other person's shoulders. And this happened in Nazi Germany. It's the same thing that happened. There was an agentic shift. When we're in the presence of a doctor, our own doctor, just going to see the doctor, we experience something similar. This is called white coat syndrome, for anybody who wants to look that up. White coat syndrome happens when we're in the presence of somebody who not just we think is an authority figure. That's not far enough. Our society, our tribe recognizes that as an authority figure, which makes it 50 times more powerful. Because our brains have genetic memory. And this isn't BS. If your great-great-great-grandmother had her leg cut off by a train, I don't know, I couldn't think of anything cool to say. Let's say she got ran over by a train, grandma, great-great-great-grandma. You, at your age, from birth, can be afraid of trains. We can pass down trauma, and that is not some kind of woo-woo energy stuff. That is proven by science that we can pass down traumas through genes. So if we can pass down individual traumas from 400 years ago, let's keep in mind that our brains are a couple 100 million years old, or at least the lower parts of them are. And we have three layers that are going on there. We have this top layer up here, which is our neocortex. It's our new human brain that's pretty young. It's a kid compared to the others. We have our mammalian part of our brain here, which is our hypothalamus, our little emotional regulatory system. And down here in the spinal cord, we have the reptilian brain, the reptile. And this part of our brain is what makes our decisions. Not this. This makes the decisions, and this tells you I did all the work. It was logical. It was rational. I made everything happen. When this is what's really doing it. We think in language. We think in terms of words and structures of language. This part of our brain is not capable of human language. And this is a profound point that I'd like to make here. If you take the brain out of your dog's head and copy paste it into your own head, that's what this is. And just to kind of give you a visualization of where it is, if you stick your fingers in your ears, you'll be pointing to that, to this mammalian part of your brain, just to help you visualize where it's sitting right now. So the dog brain inside your head is sitting in there and it can't speak English, but this is 300,000 years old right here, the neocortex. This is around between 10 and 80 million. We don't know. It doesn't really matter. It's old as hell, but it can't talk to us. It gives us a gut feeling. It gives us those gut feelings when we talk to somebody and everything looks right on the surface. It looks right logically, but we get that feeling afterwards like something's not right here. Something isn't right. That's where that comes from. That part of your brain has been reading people for 10 million years, and the memories get passed down. 10 million years of memories are encoded into that little part of our brain. And for anybody who thinks, man, maybe we're not really born with genetic memory, how did you know how to smile when you were a baby? Or frown? We are born with genetic memory. So there are tripwires inside of this brain. This is what's making choices. There are tripwires inside of that part of the brain that make it go instantaneously, make a completely unconscious decision to be compliant and obedient to another person. And if those tripwires are hit, then people become compliant. And in my courses, I'm not making this a sales pitch, but in the courses, we unpack each one of those things. And I show you on video, I show you in a demonstration how everything makes us compliant. I might use this later. Keep it over here. So in the end, that part of our brain is 10 million years of scanning for an authority figure. That's all it does. Just a couple 100,000 years ago, if we didn't obey the authority in our little tribe or group of human beings, we're finished. Either A, we get outcast from the tribe or we die. B, we get killed. Or C, we become socially outcast and we don't have sex and our DNA disappears from the face of the earth. And I'm willing to bet that everybody here has 100% of your ancestors are not a virgin. I'm willing to bet. So that is a big deal in that tribal society. We pass on our DNA. Good DNA passes on good DNA. All right, we'll take a break in just a minute. So that entire CIA mind control program specifically dealt with something called iatrogenesis. Anybody would like, I'll just spell it. It's IATROGNIC for the shorter term. Iatrogenic or iatrogenesis. This means a disease or illness caused by a doctor. And we have multiple personality disorder, which in, I think, 1994, when DSM-4 came out, it was changed to dissociative identity disorder. It's the same thing. And a lot of these cases that we're starting to discover now, a lot of cases of multiple personality disorder are iatrogenic, which means they were probably on accident. There's not like some secret society of therapists out there that are jamming multiple personalities into somebody. But in real life, they give them a survey They give them a quick survey. And there's several out there. There's one called the Dissociative Experiences Scale, which is one of the most common. And Dr. Colin Ross has his own, which is the Dissociative Identity Test Battery, something like that. But some of these, the doctors will make up on their own. And just by asking leading questions to a certain type of person, we can create another personality. You can create, everybody here, you can create another personality in a person in less than an hour. Whether or not it's strong, whether or not it sticks, whether or not it is a hindrance to that person's life is between you and that person's backstory. And those are the two factors that you're going to be dealing with. Probably a couple other things. But it is easy for us to separate because we naturally dissociate. When saber-toothed tigers were ripping our intestines out a million years ago, it was very helpful to not have to experience that event. So our brains got used to doing that. Zebras dissociate. Hippopotamus dissociate. Water buffalo do it. And we handle trauma differently. So a lot of the multiple personality cases that have come out in the last several years, in the last decade, about 40% of them were proven to be what we call iatrogenic or fake, somebody that's acting out a disorder. This is called pseudogenic. And a pseudogenic illness is typically not someone trying to get attention or anything, but they genuinely believe it themselves most of the time. But it's not iatrogenic. They're not actually experiencing the symptoms that they claim most of the time. So with that, we'll really dig into dissociation and how it's used in mind control. So we've got several ways that we can be hacked. I'm not sure. Hopefully everybody saw the video I had just kind of on repeat here. And the video is just a demonstration of something called a handshake induction in hypnosis. And it works because shaking a person's hand interrupts a natural memorized pattern. Sorry. So we have a set of scripts that we use for anything. And this is in education. You're sitting in a classroom in front of a teacher. I'm taking notes. I'm listening. I'm raising my hand to talk. We have a script for that because it's been literally written into our brain since we were tiny. But we have a script for a lot of things. The more you learn to drive a car, the more you drive a car, the more your brain makes permanent wirings between two things. So if you think of people saying you're making a new connection in your brain, you know, you do these things a lot, then you make a new connection. I learned to ride a motorcycle. It's extremely stressful. I have to manage the clutch. I have to manage the gas, the front brake, the rear brake, the gear shifter, the lean of the motorcycle, the steering, the turn signals that I have to remember to turn it off myself. There's a lot of stuff going on. And over time, anything that we learn repetitively, we repeat the behavior, it makes a permanent wiring pathway. Over time, we don't have to remember which way to put the turn signal up or down to turn right or left in a car. We don't have to remember it. It's automatic. It's memorized. Just like shaking hands is memorized. And we hear a lot of hypnosis training that talks about this handshake interrupt. But it happens in our lives as well. When something interrupts a memorized pattern, we become suggestible. And that's any pattern. So you're driving down the freeway and the car in front of you slams on its brakes and you hear the tires screeching through your windshield. That's a break in the pattern. In that moment, in that 5-second window, you're very, very suggestible. And all human beings are running scripts. If you go to Starbucks and you order a triple soy decaf latte, that barista on the other side of the counter is running a script. I ask for order. I tell them to put in the credit card. I uncap the Sharpie. I misspell their name on the cup on purpose. I hand it to the guy. They make your coffee. Boom. That's a script. And the more that situations occur that sound normal and sound real, like it's something that happens a lot, the more our brain falls deeper into script mode. So our ability to detect what kind of script a person is running is vital if we are in therapy, if we're teaching, if we're dealing with anyone, because the script, if I know the script, I can predict what will break someone out of it. I can predict what will push someone further into it. And this script identification techniques is a big part of my training. But interruptions in our life make us hyper-suggestible. And the bigger the interruption in script, the longer the period of suggestibility. I've never heard this said before. I'm not an academic, but there's a big difference between results-based and science-based. The bigger the disruption in our life or script, the longer the period of suggestibility is. So if something is interrupted just like a handshake, that's a tiny pattern with a tiny disruption. So the period of suggestibility for interrupting someone's natural tendency to reach forward and shake your hand provides a tiny, small window for suggestibility. That's why hypnosis can happen like that. In my 1-year mastery class, which is starting up pretty soon, I hope you guys have a chance to look at that. This is our first couple of days in this mastery class, is me walking you through how to do exactly what was in that video to anybody, anytime. Because we start from that base and understanding how the brain works. Just by doing that, we understand that if a script is broken, we increase suggestibility. If I'm recruiting for a cult, I'm the chief recruiter for a division of Scientology or something like that here in Virginia Beach, which is probably one of the most common. It's got its own Netflix special now with Leah Remini talking about it. I'm going to target people who are destabilized. I'm going to target people who've had a recent death in the family. They've just started taking SSRIs for depression. They've had a major life change. They just lost their job. They've had an illness in the family. They have uncertainty about a close family member that's suffering with a terminal illness. That's a break in script. My life as itself, I wake up every day, I shave, I drink 2 cups of coffee, I sit at my computer and I write for several hours. I have a script in my life, and we all have scripts. But our script is not just situational. I don't just have like I'm driving a car script. I'm an employee script. They stitch themselves together over time because it's not just our behaviors that are repetitive. It's our feelings throughout the entire thing. But the feelings get disrupted, then the whole script is disrupted. So I would target destabilized people because their script is already interrupted. And mind control people who are especially in cults, and I don't mean to target Scientology. I've read, I think every book that L. Ron Hubbard has written, except for fiction stuff. When we target people that are destabilized, we're automatically capitalizing on something else that broke their script. It's not us. I didn't go inject their family members with cancer or whatever happened to their life. I didn't cause their divorce or get them fired. But a lot of times people who are very skilled in persuasion, especially like the best therapists in the world. And I'd like to make that distinction that no matter how dangerous the technique is, the more dangerous it is, the more you can use it for therapy.